thank you for everyone coming to the privacy talk. I'm so quite a bit honored invited Raashee from United States. That she's experts in advertisement and privacy industry. So Raashee, thank you for coming to this privacy show.
Thank you, Kohei. Very nice to be here.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to introduce her profile. Raashee is a marketing, advertisement, and privacy leader. She's a founder and a CEO of Uplevel as a privacy consulting firm. Recently, she served as a White House Presidential Innovation Fellow in the Biden administration and senior advisor at Federal Trade Commission. At FTC, she functioned as a subject matter expert and technologist on matters related to advertising and privacy practices. Her work touched investigations into other tech and platforms, congressional bills, technical assistance, ADPPA, American Data Privacy Protection Act, lawmaking, COPPA, NLPL on the commercial surveillance and lax data security practices, market research analysis, social media companies, ISPs, leadership briefing on privacy sandbox, Apple's app tracking transparency, personalized advertising, and tech education series, engagement with external regulatory bodies, advocacy organizations, and industry bodies. Prior to that, Raashee held various advertisement and marketing leadership roles at global companies, Volkswagen and Samsung, managed digital advertising and strategy at large advertising agency for Fortune 500 companies, American Express, Google, T-Mobile, etc., and led corporate marketing strategy on demand generation at Nelster, acquired by TransUnion. She serves on the IAPP, Women Leading Privacy Advisory Board, and holds various privacy certifications. So again, very highly appreciated to having a talk this moment, Raashee. So yeah, let's jump. Thank you. So let's jump into the agenda of today. So I'm very happy to listen your activity because I also had some experience in the marketing field. Then your marketing expertise is quite so impressive. So could you share how is your marketing advertising career and the privacy at Federal Trade Commission?
You very nicely, eloquently described my profile. So my background is marketing and advertising. I am an advertiser and marketer by profession, by training, by trade, and I've been in the industry for close to 2 decades. And I've had the privilege of being in all sides of the ecosystem, as we say it. I worked in brands like Samsung and Volkswagen, where you're sort of on the forefront of developing your advertising marketing strategy, digital experiences, customer experiences, data strategy. So I've seen that side of the equation. Then I've been at big ad agencies, global holding companies, as well as independent shops where I got a chance to implement all these strategies. So media planning, buying, data strategy, analytics, activation, really working with digital platforms and ad tech companies to bring these strategies to life in terms of targeting users in various different ways and engaging with them. And then the third pillar of my advertising career has been on the ad tech side. So as I've been the buyer of these technologies at brands and agencies, I sort of wanted to understand the other side where the product is being created and made. That's the work that I did at Viewstar, which is an ad tech company, a market tech company, which powers a lot of the identity solutions, data onboarding, CRM, CDPs. So a lot of the acronyms that we all know in the marketing space. And then after these corporate jobs, I ended up going out on my own and started to do consulting, bringing together all my corporate experience to companies large and small to help them with improving their marketing, improving their advertising, being more data-centric, developing data strategies, media strategies, planning, execution, buying, and operations. And during this process is when I started to get exposed to GDPR in 2018 when it was launched, and companies and clients would come to me and asking about, we have a new website launch, what do we do with the cookie banner, what is the requirements? So that's how I fell into privacy. And it's just continuously became more and more interesting for me. I personally was very engaged in the topics, understanding the space from application of marketing. I bring a business perspective to privacy and to marketing. And I got an opportunity to go to FTC to really bring my two experiences together. So my advertising experience and work at FTC from a privacy perspective, where a lot of the ad tech companies are dealing with privacy issues. Platforms, big tech platforms have so much data that requires companies to be privacy preserving.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experiences. So I want to ask you the next question about is public sectors. As you mentioned, just in a regulatory issue happens in digital marketing at the moment, especially for the third parties or other transparency, the many concerns it's related to sectorial, industrial things that happen this moment. So could you tell us your work in the digital media and the marketing and public sector?
The industry is going through a lot of change and pressure because of privacy, because of regulatory action. So you're seeing a lot of state laws here in the United States coming up. We know that there is not a federal privacy law, unlike GDPR here in the United States, but states have really created this environment of privacy focus. And we have 5 laws that are in place now, but then there are more coming this year. So it really has up-leveled, for lack of a better term, the conversation, the need of privacy as it relates to advertising and marketing. And advertising and marketing industry has always been unregulated. It's never been sort of like scrutinized that much before. And as I said, early days, there was not a lot of tracking, and it just evolved over time where it's become everything, and everywhere you go is tracked from multiple parties in multiple different ways. So that has led to this increased pressure of privacy, where regulators consider it to be consumer harm. It's harmful for consumers to be constantly be watched, tracked, and their behaviors are shared, and data is shared and sold, and they're constantly being surveillanced. Those are the issues that have led to a lot of the regulatory pressure. And I think there is the regulatory pressure I'd like to add is twofold. One is the state laws coming about. And then secondly, we are starting to see a lot more enforcement actions, and enforcement actions very much sort of targeting different problems under privacy, whether it's children's privacy, health data privacy, location data, not being transparent in their privacy policies, not being able to correct their behaviors. I think the pressure is twofold. One is laws, and then other is enforcement actions.
Thank you for sharing. I think the Federal Trade Commission has been becoming a more strong stance against of the privacy breach in this moment. So is there any progress throughout your experiences 2 years on the public institutions? Maybe like in American regulator is becoming the very against of the privacy infringement in this sense. You have any insights from the perspective?
Talking about FTC, and just in my time there, I've definitely seen a lot more focus and emphasis on sensitive areas that are considered to be more privacy breaching. So as I said, health privacy is a big area. Any health data is sensitive data. So companies who are collecting the data have to be responsible for the data. And I think privacy issues come about when the data is, yes, collected, but also sold and shared and used for targeting. Like one example, most recently, FTC's enforcement action on GoodRx. It's a digital health platform that was collecting people's sensitive data because they were using the coupons and their platform to get discounts. And then that data was then used for running ads. And also it was contrary to the privacy promise that was made, where companies said that we're not doing this, but they were doing the opposite. And then they failed to disclose under the health breach notification rules. So that's an example. And previously, I think a year and a half ago, was another health privacy action with Flow, which is a mobile app that tracks female health data and was then misusing that data and not being sort of transparent to users. So that's one area. Second area is children's privacy. Again, that's an important aspect. There's obviously a COPPA, which is Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, that is in place. And there were a couple big enforcement actions that took place. One was Fortnite, which is the video game, where they were using dark patterns and also misleading children and consumers into purchases. And also the default settings were violating the privacy of the kids. So that's an area. Second one was also in the ad tech space, this company called OpenX, where again, they had the knowledge of child-directed apps, and that data was collected, and they were violating the COPPA rule when they were passing this data on to third parties to target ads. The third area that is starting to become more prominent is location data. Location is also like where people are going, their whereabouts is considered personal information. And there were a couple things that happened with that. And so OpenX, same company, was also within the same settlement, was violating location data under the FTC Act. And then Kochava, another ad tech company, which was selling geolocation data of millions of people when they're visiting sensitive areas like religious institutions or health clinics and things like that. To your point earlier, there's this sectoral element to privacy in the United States. So this sort of indicates various data classification, if you want to call it, like geolocation data, children's data, health data, are big areas of concern.
It's a very big point then in the United States, and thank you for sharing the insights. Maybe just a lot of marketer is trying to use the personal data as much as they can to create the more optimizing of the marketing output. In order to create the efforts from the privacy perspective, I think you mentioned on the LinkedIn post that trust is very important with the customers. A lot of the marketers should consider the trust relationship with the customers for their utilities. So in this case, what the company should consider to build the trust with the privacy. So could you share your idea with that?
Yeah, the way I approach privacy is it's not a legal only function. Compliance with privacy laws is one thing. It's the most natural thing that everybody sort of thinks about when it comes to privacy. And it's considered sort of like this falls under the legal domain or lawyers need to handle it. But I think that's there. Given more and more rules and regulations coming out, so you do want to be in line with the law and you have to be compliant in all your business practices. So that's number one. But what we're starting to see is twofold. Regulators are definitely being more active, and they are proactively going out and looking for companies who are not doing the right thing. And secondly, there's a lot of consumer awareness about privacy, and consumers are starting to sort of take choices, whether they're opting out from mobile apps collecting their data or opting out of like websites collecting cookies and data. So there's a lot more savviness from a consumer perspective and regulatory perspective, which means that the businesses do need to become more aware, and they have to start thinking of privacy as a core business value. And it starts not just at the bottom of like compliance and check the box and do some paperwork and you're done. It's more, it has to go upstream. It has to be built into the strategy conversations now is data strategy has to weave into privacy principles. If you're collecting data, are you collecting it properly? Are you collecting it with consent? Are you transparent in their privacy policies? Are you doing what you're saying? And are you being clear and concise about your information? Then user experience. This is a sort of a related thing to privacy where dark patterns come into play, and they very closely tie to user experience. Privacy by design and privacy by default are some core engineering and product principles that should be built in as you are developing products, as you're developing destinations and experiences. Businesses have to be very open-minded and have to be learning and constantly watching. FTC is the federal body which has the authority. The way they are making the point is by doing different enforcement actions. So you constantly need to understand and see what's going on, what sort of actions are being taken, because they are not written in law, but they become case precedent and start to be used as guidelines. To summarize, like compliance is easy and the first step. I'm not saying easy in the sense that it's easy to do, it is complicated, but in the sense that that's the most natural thing you would do. But then start to build privacy conversations in all your strategic decisions in your planning, and then also factor in product development and engineering has to have privacy component built in.
Thank you. Yeah, there is the many concerns related to the marketing or advertisement industry this moment. Then the companies or any managers should consider the trust is a very primary for the marketing relationship with the customers. I think that your idea, the insight is a very informative, the insightful.
So from a business perspective, if you have a privacy situation or PR situation come up, that is going to hamper your trust with consumers. And marketing knows how long it takes to build the trust and how much effort it goes into time, money, and resources to build consumer trust. It all ladders up to consumer trust, brand reputation, and lifetime value. Putting it in business speak and putting it in marketing sense, it is very important to constantly keep that in mind. And privacy is a strategic advantage, I think, to build the consumer trust.
Thank you. So I want to ask you about the future landscape, because you mentioned that the trust is important for the marketing and advertisement industry. And the problem is that a lot of the marketing efforts in the previous, such as some of industry organization is creating of the standards, such as the IAB is their own trust framework, but unfortunately wasn't controversial in European regulators, or whether it could be approval under the GDPR or not. Of course, that's the same things it's been discussed underlying of the US regulators as well. So do you have any future predictions of the privacy or marketing related to the regulatory updated in next decades, or you have any concerns or ambitions for that reasons?
The advertising marketing industry, no doubt, is going to continue to face the pressure that they are facing today, with privacy at the core of this in the form of regulations and a lot of new laws coming up, compliance and actions from regulators. But at the same time, it has been unregulated for a really long time. So, which has led to a lot of practices that were not monitored. And that's what's happening now, is a lot of these practices are being questioned and monitored and are being regulated or will get regulated. And marketing industry has a role to play. One is self-regulation is really important. So these trade bodies are doing a great job, and they're constantly also facing the challenge of new laws and regulations and how do you comply with everything. Is it going to become like 52 different laws? How do we centralize all these things? So that's why there was a lot of love for a federal privacy bill last year, but we all know it didn't end up where it needed to be. Given that, I think there's a role for industry bodies to continuously be that guide, be that voice for self-regulation and providing the framework and guidance. And the second thing is companies have to also take it upon them to start to build these technologies internally. So there's a lot of movement amongst privacy enhancing technologies. So PETs, what are the different viable solutions? What are the different methods that could be more in line with the privacy guidelines and privacy principles? I think there's probably learning that can be taken from GDPR in terms of like what are the requirements, because Europe comes from a different standpoint where their perspective is collect no data, but United States comes with the perspective of consumer and consumer sort of choice, and consumer is the center of it. So companies need to be mindful when they're collecting data, ad agents, like ad tech companies, whether they are third-party intermediaries or even brands themselves who are using first-party data now to do a lot of their marketing, is collecting the data, sharing data, selling data, and then sort of how are they doing that? What's their data retention policy, data minimization? Can you be sort of doing what you're doing, but with less data or no data? So I think those are some of the things that is the future of advertising and marketing industry. There's challenges today, but then this also provides innovation opportunities. And I think one of the recent announcements from California AG's office did also talk about the global privacy controls and how there are privacy controls for GPC signals are in place for websites or for desktop environments, but there is a need for the industry to come together from a mobile perspective, and what is the solution for a mobile signal. So I think the point there is to be open to these signals, like collect these signals, accept these signals, so that, again, this is all done to give consumers their choice and to help them exercise their rights. And I think that's what regulators think and want to see happen.
Thank you. This is the upheaval in the marketing industry at the moment. Then a lot of the companies or managers should be changing their mindset. It's not just like to push in the marketing campaigns or something, that need to more understanding of the consumers, how the trend is happening. So that is very important topics that you share. So Raashee, could you share any message for the listeners? Then you have a very great experiences in the marketing, digital advertisement, and then you can share this message to the audiences who is interested in this topic.
My quick message would be is privacy is here to stay. So it is time for people, for business owners, for marketers, for advertisers, in addition to privacy and legal professionals, is to pause, reflect, and almost like reset your practices where you see there is a gap. And it's an evolving space, so you constantly have to take the time to learn and understand what is coming, what is changing, and how you need to adapt to it. And then lastly, do not think privacy is a compliance or legal only function. It should be brought upstream in all your business decisions and business actions, and it should become sort of a core of your decisioning, of your strategy, of your planning, that how you want to do the right thing, and again, keeping customer trust in mind. And it's a long-term play, but I think it's a substantial differentiator that can help businesses sort of benefit in the long run.
Yeah, that's a great message. So thank you, Raashee, having a great time with you. I'm also very exploring that happens in the marketing industry, because it's very important to take a notice of all the market issues concerns with the privacy first. So let's keep an updates and then sharing the insight together. Thank you for having this moment.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.